Welcome and greetings to everybody in the house. Welcome to online webinar on innovative approaches in civil engineering, 3D modeling, road and landscape architecture. Actually, this is the second part of the online webinar. The first part we talk about the coordinate system. We try to define what coordinate system are, how coordinate system can be obtained, and we also discussed the importance of coordinate system in civil engineering. We discussed the type of coordinate system, the planimetric coordinate system, and the Cartesian coordinate system. Today we are getting into the second part of the webinar, and here we'll be talking on topographic 3D terrain modeling. Okay, on the course content, what you will learn. We are going to give a breakdown of what we are going to see below. We are going to start with the introduction to topographic 3D modeling. Then after that, we are going to see some definitions and usable terminology used in this part 2. We are going to see instrument for data collection, the type of instrument for data collection. And under the instrument, we are going to see the survey's level. We are going to talk about the survey's level, automatic or digital level. Then we are going to talk about total station. From the total station, we are going to discuss using one of the most innovative or modern instrument now used in civil engineering work, which is Global Navigation Satellite System Device. From there, we are going to see another innovative technology platform, innovative platform where we can obtain satellite data for 3D terrain modeling. We are going to talk about airborne data, airborne which is satellite. We are going to talk about spaceborne which is drone. And then we are going to see the type of drone, the professional drone used in the civil engineering project, like the Arctic drones, real-time kinematic drones. We are going to see Mavic Enterprise, which is Mavic Enterprise and Phantom 4 Pro. There are two types of drones which are mostly used in civil engineering works. They are professional drones, so we are going to talk a little bit about them. Then from there, we are going to see the type of data that can be used or that can be collected in the site for 3D terrain modeling or topographic mapping. We are going to talk about point data, spot height. We are going to talk about STRM, shuttle topographic radar mission. Then we're going to talk about ESTA, which is an advanced space thermal emission and reflection radiometer. These ones are mostly gotten from the United States Geological Survey's website. Then we are going to talk about light detection and ranging, LIDAR. These are cloud data. This one is too common in civil engineering projects. Yes, we are going to talk about them. STRM and ESTA are actually free data which we can obtain from the United States Geological Survey website. Even the LIDAR are commercial data which we can buy. Whereas point data, we can go to the field with our instrument and we collect our point data X, Y, Z to come and generate the 3D dimensional perspective of the terrain. So when we are done with that, we are going to talk about useful software to generate 3D dimensional perspective of the terrain. Of course, the most used and the most powerful software out there for terrain modeling is Autodesk Civil 3D. Revit is mostly specialized in building information modeling, but they can use it for some basic and terrain modeling, but it's not that sophisticated. So the best and the most complete is Autodesk Civil 3D modeling. Autodesk Civil 3D. So when we are done with that, we are going to see how we can, we are going to discuss how we can and actually collect data in the field, then we calculate the volume of earthwork that will be involved in the project. Introduction and overview. 3D terrain modeling is an essential aspect of civil engineering that involves the representation of the Earth's surface in 3 dimensions. Now, let's talk in a layman way or in a very plain way, the simplest way. Anytime you have been given a project you want to realize as an engineer, the first thing that comes to your mind is what is the surface area. If we are talking in the case of a land of a building project, what comes to your mind is what is the surface area of the land, and what is the physiognomy of the land, how is it undulating. You think about the terrain, is it undulating, or the landform. You want to describe it, you want to have a mental view of the surface area, you want to have the mental view of the geometry of the land, all these things. Okay, now the moment you start thinking about the physiognomy, the landform of the terrain, you're actually trying to represent mentally, you're trying to represent a 3-dimensional perspective of the terrain. So now in engineering, engineers go to the site, collect data, that they use this data now, X, Y, Z. They use this data now to generate a 3-dimensional view of the terrain. With that 3-dimensional view of the terrain now, engineers now can now come now together as a team or in the office. They can now discuss to see how the terrain will be more suitable, how the terrain can be arranged or can be cut or filled so that it can be more suitable for the project that they want to realize on the terrain. They can discuss and see obstacles. 3-dimensional view of the terrain will help them see obstacles and how they can overcome the obstacles. It can be a road project, it can be a building project, it can be water project, it can be pipeline project. So 3-dimensional view of the terrain is very, very important. It's a base for before they want to realize it will start any engineering project. It's a base to have all the details in the terrain and to see if there's an obstacle, if earthwork of cutting or filling will be involved. And it's also, and don't forget that it's also the base to calculate volume of earthwork that will be involved. And this volume of earthwork will play enormous when we want to do our quantity and estimate. So when we are doing our quantity surveys and engineering project, we do not only talk about materials, we also do quantity and estimate. When we are talking about quantity and estimate for engineering project, we do not only talk about quantity and estimate for materials, we also do quantity. We also talk about quantity and estimate for groundwork. Like here, we have seen another importance like groundwork estimation, volume calculation. So those are the importance introductive phase. That is the importance of the 3D dimensional view of the terrain. Now, here also the importance of 3-view dimensional view of the terrain, or 3-view dimensional representation of the terrain. We talk about project visualization. Of course, we earlier mentioned that when we have a terrain with us in the office, well visualized, we are seeing all the undulation, we are seeing all the rise and fall. We can now better communicate and better plan our project. We can even place numerically, see we are doing numerical copies. We can try to see how we can fit in or how the project integrate with the site. Yes. So under again in here we're talking about integration with technology. Of course, here this side is just talking about this on the section is just talking about how we can use and instead of going to the terrain, like let's say we have a road and a road that links Boya to Kumba or Boya to a town in Manfi. If you want to start collecting field data from the, if you want to start collecting data in the data like field data with manually or traditionally using that station or GNS. If you want to be collecting it point after point, you see it's going to take a lot of time. But when engineers want to have a general information of the landform, so they can interpret, they can call or integrate technologies like LIDAR or photogrammetry, where they can use our specialized drone, and from there they can fly the drone from here, maybe partially in a sectional manner. They can fly the drone from here to Kumba in a sectional manner to obtain all information. Don't forget that these professional drones are multi-spectrum, and they're RTK drones. They give us the X, Y, and Z, so they can generate the terrain. This technology permits us to generate three-dimensional view of the terrain. And then we can now work with the software like CART and CART or Geographic Information System software like ArcGIS and ArcGIS or ADAS, which these are powerful software we can use to generate the three-dimensional view of the terrain for a project. Yeah, this is just an image of a three-dimensional view of the terrain seen on the technician working on the terrain. So as we earlier said, when they want to engage a project, it might be a road project. It's not just done haphazardly. These people are working on the following the defined height that has been defined by the engineers. We go to the field, we collect the data. The data now is used as a ground data. And now we establish on the project data. Project data, now we go to the field now to see how we can either cut the ground height, or we can fill the ground height so that it can reach the project height. Yeah, so this is why it's usually done based on calculation and discussion, strategic discussion that engineers have put in place before work go on in the field. Now we are going to, it's very important that when we are dealing with the topic, we talk about the terminology used there. We are going to see terminology used in 3D terrain modeling. One of the terminology we're going to talk about, we have like digital elevation model. Now, when we represent a terrain, a three-dimensional view of the terrain, and everything like vegetation, existing infrastructure, ground is being represented in a three-dimensional view, and actually that one is known as DEM. And but when we represent just the height, the terrain, excluding the vegetation, when we represent just the terrain excluding the vegetation, that one is known as digital terrain model. Yes. So we also have terminology like point cloud. Point cloud, we can obtain point cloud like that. Point cloud from LIDAR and the STRM and STAR. Those we can use this point cloud to generate on the three-dimensional view of the terrain. Then another terminology that you'll be hearing when we are dealing with three-dimensional representation, you'll be hearing terminology like contour lines, lines on a map connecting point of equal elevation. So you'll be working in engineers, you'll be working in maps when you'll be doing road works, water work project, and pipeline project, and many type of project. You'll be working a lot with maps or real estate or building project that I want to cover a big region. You're working a lot with maps, and with these maps, you're going to have contour lines, and you have to know how to read the contour lines. As we earlier said, lines on a map connecting point of equal intervals. Yes, yeah. Then now you hear what like you will get what terminology like triangulation, TIN, which is actually triangulation irregular network. Yes. Okay, if we go to the side, we just mentioned triangulation irregular network. If we go to the side, we collect data like here. This is a site, this is a terrain. Let's say this is a terrain here. It can be a terrain here. This is a terrain with data that have been collected in the side. You see how the data with red has been spread in the terrain. This XYZ now can be used now to generate. You see, it can be generated and a three-dimensional view or a three-dimensional perspective of the terrain, like what we are seeing down here. So now, what happens is that if we go to the side, we can be working with an interval. We can be working with a defined interval. Sometimes we work with an interval of 5 meter, 10 meter defined. It depends on the precision we have been asked to work with. You know, the closer the interval is, the more detail we are going to have. So let's say if we have a side like this. Let's take for example, and we work with interval of, let's say this is 0.2, interval of maybe 5 meters, 6 meter, 7 meter. Okay, we take a point here A, B, C. We have taken point this. We have been taking points along this in the side X, Y, Z. So we are going to use all these points like this X, Y, Z. We know that the X coordinate of 1 and 2 would give us the distance between 1 and 2, and the height of A of 1 and 2 will give us the height difference between 1 and 2, isn't it? If we have the height here to be 200 and half here to be 205, of course, we can know the height difference. So all this information now are being entered into the software. Now it can be used now to generate the three-dimensional perspective of the terrain. But first of all, what happened? We are working with an interval of 5 meters. What happened now between this and this interval that we did not collect data? So there's a built-in algorithm in the software that the software creates some sort of network of triangles. Yes, it creates some sort of network of triangles, and with that network of triangles, it uses that network of triangles to calculate height of point that we did not measure in the field. That is by method of interpolation. Let's just say if we go to the field, sorry, my hand is shaking. If we go to the C field, we take a point here, point A, and we take a point here, point B. Okay, of course, and we happen to have the HA, and here we happen to have HB. That's the altitude of point B. Of course, this is the horizontal distance between point A and point B. And now this is the height difference between A and B. Height difference between A and B will simply be the vertical from point B to the horizontal, intersecting the horizontal from point A to B. So we have H, A, B. Yeah, we have HAB. HAB is the height difference between A and B, between A and point B. Now, what if we have a point now between A and B? Let's call it point D. What we did not measure this point in the field. We measure A and B. We have the horizontal distance. What if we have a point here? How can we calculate the altitude of this point D? So by method of interpolation, we can calculate the altitude of point D. So as I was just saying, the software has a built-in algorithm that creates a network of triangles, and then from there calculate height of point that we did not calculate using interpolation technique. Let's just discuss it here. If we use then if we have point D, and then of course this vertical distance will be HGA. That's the height difference between A and D. Then here from here now we are going to have distance AD. Isn't it? Distance AD, this is G, of course. Then from all two here, we are going to have what they call distance. We are going to have distance AB. Distance AB stands for, and it starts from A to B. Now, if we use the formula of similarity of triangle, if we use the formula of similarity of triangle, we stipulate that H, G, A, all on H, A, B is equal to distance AD, distance AG, all on distance AB. So if we cross multiply now, we can use this formula now to calculate the height, calculate HAD. Now, if we know the height difference between HAD, this simply implies that HG will simply be equal to HA plus HGA, isn't it? So this altitude of this point, now we know the height difference, which is HGA. The altitude of this point at point D now will simply be, if we take the altitude of this point A, the altitude of this point A plus the height difference between A and D, we are going to have the altitude of point D. So we use interpolation technique when dealing with things like this. Another terminology, very useful terminology when you're dealing with terrain modeling, is contour lines. Yeah, contour lines engineers and planners use contour lines for site analysis, grading, and determining suitable location for infrastructure for infrastructure project. And then the purpose, contour lines and indices help in visualizing the terrain shape. Okay, now when we look at this is a contour line, this is how contour lines are. When we look at the contour line as you as an engineer, the moment you take a contour map, you look at it, you can easily just have a physiognomy of the terrain. Even if you haven't been in the terrain, they give a contour map of the terrain. With a plan of the terrain representing the contour map, you can easily know how the terrain or the landform looks like, how the terrain undulates. You can know if it's a level terrain or it's a hilly ground. Now, when you look at the contour here, we have some intervals. You have some terminology that has been used here. We have index contour. We have contour lines. Of course, contour lines. These are the contour lines. We have contour interval. For index contours, for some topography maps, every after 5 contours, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth contour is represented with thick lines, and those thick lines are called index contour. Then now contour interval. Now contour interval, when we want to represent contour map, they can tell you that okay, we want to represent a contour map of a vertical interval. We have the vertical interval. For contour interval, we have the vertical interval, and we have the horizontal interval. Okay. For the vertical interval, let's talk on the vertical interval. They can tell you that okay, let us represent the contour of every after 1 meter or 2 meter. For large scale map like you want to, for project map, when you want to just discuss on the physiognomy or the topography from a side like from Limbe to Kumba, on large scale map, you'll be seeing things like like from 10 meter, yes, interval, vertical interval 10 meter, or 10 meter, 5 meter. But on the regional map where we need details now, we can be seeing things like, mostly in the civil engineering project, we can be seeing things like as much as 0.5, 0.25. So that is a vertical interval, or sometimes 1 meter in some few cases, yes. So we have talked about interpolation. So you said interpolation. We have discovered interpolation is technique used to determine the attitude of point that were not observed, that were not taken to calculate attitude of point from observed point in the terrain. Yeah. Then the interpolation. Under interpolation also we have some other interpolation technique. We have interpolation technique by kriging. We have interpolation technique by inverse distance weighting. So these are the interpolation techniques. We have break line and break line. So those are the interpolation techniques we can use in civil engineering. When we take a particular case, we are going to discuss on a particular case, but not today. We won't be dealing with practical. Today we are dealing with the theoretical concept. When we're dealing with practical application, we are going to see all those things. So these are the continuity of the common terminology: topography survey, landforms, slope analysis, aspect, raster data. Vector data visualization, georeferencing, volume calculation, terrain analysis. Now, I would like to just talk on georeferencing, which is a common georeferencing. Georeferencing simply means it's a method used to calculate coordinate of points in the field. Can georeference, we can have our map where we can have a plan with XY, knowing the XY coordinate in the field. We can come now with our software. If we want to have some coordinate of building here, it can be a photo or a photo taken with a satellite or with a drone. Sorry, we can come now in the specialized software. We should reference it to have the coordinate of points here. Or let's say we can be working with our drone in the field, and let's say we can be working with a drone which is Phantom 4 Pro drone, which is not an RTK drone, and we can have some known point in the field. Let's say we have some known point in the field, some point, control point. We know the coordinates of these points, X, Y. We know the coordinate of this point, X, Y. Let's call this point A and call this point B, isn't it? Now we can now fly our drone. Let's say we have another control point here, point C, X, Y. We can fly our drone, let's say all over, it can be all over, and and Moleco, we just have some few point D here. These are control point X, Y. We have some control point on the campus, 2 points on the campus, maybe 1 point on my 17, another 1 point going up to 1 point going up to maybe, I don't know those places there, and in maybe another point G. So we can fly our drone all over Moleco. Now we can now come now when we have the images, the satellite images or the drone images or the area images, the rightful area images. We can now come with the specialized software with georeference using this control point. Then from there we are going to have all the coordinates of any natural and man-made features that are situated in Moleco, all the buildings, road network, drainage system, electric line. We can have all their coordinates that we can represent. We can have produce a map following their coordinate system. When we deal with this one practically, you will understand very well what on the georeferencing is. Instrument used for data collection. So we have the automatic level. Yeah, with the automatic level, we can use the automatic level. This one is mostly used during engineering project. When we have engineering project, ongoing engineering project, we can use this and we can use this instrument to calculate height of point, a height difference between point. When they are doing grading, you will see when you are passing through roadwork, you see the way you use this instrument when they are doing grading. It can be a drainage system, it can be a roadwork. So this one is mostly, it's very absolute and very precise. We take gradings here in millimeter, so they use it during engineering project, roadworks, building, even decking, all the engineering project you can think of as far as grading and leveling is concerned. So we use an automatic level. Yeah, we have, as I always say, we can also use drone. We use drone now for more advanced work. We can use drone now for RTK drones, in particular RTK drones. Yeah, we can use it when we are working in a very large area where we want to have we want to represent a three-dimensional view. We can use drone, we can fly our drone, take area images, and the area images, remember the area images will come with their X, Y, set of all the points situated within our zone of interest. Or we can use spaceborne. So this drone one is known as airborne. We can use spaceborne satellite data like STRM and STAR. That's short, and STRM stands for Shorter Topographic Radar Mission. The STAR, we can use LIDAR. So we can use data from space, from satellite, to generate three-dimensional view of the terrain. Remember, the data you are going to use, the 3D you are going to use, we are going to generate with the help of the STRM and STAR. Remember, this one are not really highly precise. Yeah, it's not really precise, but it can help you to have a view, to know how the terrain looks like. But it's not too greatly precise. It's mostly used in cartography and other mapping projects. Yeah, but it helps engineers always use them to have a general view of the landform. It's not really precise. You understand? But LIDAR also is spaceborne. It is commercial. It's not free, and it's very precise. We can use that. Yeah, data station. Data station is also one of the most common instruments used in civil engineering projects. When we go to the field, we can do what they call tachyometry surveys. Of course, we'll talk about tachyometry surveys in another time. We can now determine height of point, X, Y, height of point. Yeah. The most recent instrument now that we are using is roadworks, and engineering using now. The most recent is the Global Navigation Satellite System. This one is very recent and it's also common now. This one just at once it gives us X, Y, Z. It just gives us X, Y, Z. You can have the height at that point, each point. Very flexible and no time consumption. Within a matter of seconds, it works with the satellite. It receives satellite signals from the satellite. Then from there now, it gives us X, Y. Remember when we were talking about coordinate system, we mentioned the Global Navigation Satellite System as a device used to acquire and coordinate of point in the field X, Y, Z. So this one is very useful in an engineering project. And most of the time when you'll be doing engineering project, you'll be using this one. You'll be using this one to collect data before the project to generate the 3D, maybe roadwork, waterwork. But when they are doing the grading, you'll be using automatic level. Yeah. At first, before GNS was invented, when they want to realize a project, let's say from here to Buea, from here Buea to Kumba, what happened is that we go to the field with our test station, we do our tagiometry surveys, we collect data. From there, now we use data to generate three-dimensional view of the terrain. But this was really time consumption. It consumed a lot of time, you understand? Because we have to do what they call several instruments set up, take angle, distance, we collect data, and then we come and download the data. Then we use it, we now calculate their X, Y, Z. Because the test station did not give us coordinate at once. It did not give us the coordinate at once in the field. So we have to come back, we have to build station on a point whose coordinate are known, take reference on another point whose coordinate are known. They will start taking angular and linear distance, angular and linear distances. So we can now come now to the office, download the data, and we can use now the specialized software to calculate the coordinate of all the points. Sometimes when we go to the field, let's say we're working from here to Kumba, just imagine the number of points we are going to collect, thousands of points. Then now you have to type, sometimes you type or you download, it takes a lot of time. But now the innovation of technology, we have global navigation satellite system device. Everything is very fast. In the field, you don't need to calculate coordinate. In the field, as long as you just manipulate within a matter of seconds, and you have your coordinate of that point X, Y, Z. You just need now to come now to the field, to the office, use the coordinate to generate a three-dimensional view of the terrain. But the problem that we are facing with this global navigation satellite system device is and the satellite perturbation. Sometimes when we are working on zones that have a highly vegetation cover, we always have probably issues with the perturbation of signals. Remember, this instrument have to receive signals from satellite before giving us the coordinate. This instrument have to receive signals from satellite before giving us the coordinate of point X, Y, Z. But when there is a perturbation of satellite, when there's perturbation of signal from satellite, we cannot have the coordinate, of those points. So students doing, you see, this is a global GNS. This is GNS, students doing their practical work with their GNS, how to obtain data in the field, X, Y, Z. And then now we have a drone. We have talked about that. We have talked about the spaceborne. Then here we are talking about, you see our stationing instrument first setup, how we are stationing. Maybe we are working with ST1, ST2, ST3. Instrument set up to take data in the field. So at the end of the day, we can use it to turn out to represent three-dimensional view of the terrain. Okay, the usable software, the software we are going to use, very powerful software we are going to use when we are dealing with three-dimensional view of the terrain is Autodesk Civil 3D. That is a software which is specialized. Autodesk Civil 3D is a comprehensive civil engineering design software that plays a crucial role in 3D terrain mapping and modeling. Here are the key functions here. We can now be Revit. Revit actually is not really used in giant projects or in most projects that we really want to work with three-dimensional view of the terrain. Revit is not actually Revit plays a big role when we are dealing with infrastructure like buildings, to give their information modeling, all these things, photos and details. So the most equipment we're going to use will be Autodesk Civil 3D when we're doing the practical phase of the year. So we have tried to highlight the use of Autodesk Civil 3D, their primary uses, and we have explained everything here. We're trying to explain how it functions. We have talked about the function of Autodesk Civil 3D, surface creation. You're going to read everything there: point cloud processing, surface analysis, and contours and labeling. There we talk about triangulation irregular network, grading side layout profiles. So all these things you are reading through now, those are what Autodesk 3D can do as far as 3D dimensional perspective or representation of the terrain is concerned. Now, volume of earthwork. Yeah, this image you see, this image now shows earthwork. Earthwork being done. Earthwork it plays a lot, a big role, and sometimes it's very costful. So you will not want to, you will not want to make an error when you are calculating the volume of earthwork that is involved in a project. As an engineer, you might, especially when you are collecting data, you will not like to want to make an error to collect data, because the data will be used to calculate volume of earthwork, and the volume of earthwork will place a lot on the cost of the project. The more volume, if there's so much groundwork involved, then there's going to be a lot of duration, and it's going to play a lot with the moving and bringing of ground, all those things. Volume of ground, it plays a lot to the cost of the project. Yeah, this image also represents the volume of earthwork done by some engineers on the site. So we want to ask how is volume, do we collect data when we want to represent volume of earthwork? We do what normally we can do tachyometry surveys. We can collect with GNS. We can collect XYZ GNS. If we're working with GNS, Global Navigation System device, we can collect XYZ of point. We can enter the point in our software in CivicThread, and then we can calculate the CivicThread. We can use CivicThread to calculate the coordinate, the volume of earthwork involved. Remember, we are calculating the volume of earthwork relatively to the project height. Because when you go to the sphere, let's say if this is a point, you go to the sphere, what you obtain here, because let's say this is a point have been divided into grid, what you obtain in the sphere is known as we always say, it's known as HNG, which is height of natural ground, isn't it? All those height on the natural ground is being given. Of course, when you come now, you people can design the engineers, or you people they can design the project height HP. They can design the project height. Now, when they design the project height, that means in each point, you're going to have HW, which HW is a working height, and HW is simply given by, and if we take the height of natural terrain, height of natural terrain or height of natural ground minus HP, then we are going to have HW. Yeah, sometimes this HW can be in a point, can be give us a negative value, or sometimes can be give us a positive value. When it gives us a negative value, we know that we are going to fill. When it gives us a positive value, we know we are going to cut. But how much groundwork are we going to cut? How much groundwork are we going to cut? How much ground are we going to fill? Of course, that's what we're going to calculate when we are dealing with this. So this and the other figures just represent how the terrain has been divided into grid of square. Then how the H and the height of natural ground or the reduced level of point has been taken. We are going to see the matricule. The terrain has been matriculated. Each point you survey, of course, each point in the terrain must be designated by a matricule, like we have A1, A2, A3, A4. And don't forget that in the terrain, we divide the terrain, before collecting data, we divide the terrain into grid. Sometimes they can tell you that you divide the terrain into grid of 20 meters. Sometimes you can tell you 10 meters, but some projects that need high precision, like sport complex. When we are dealing with sport complex, we always work with a grid of 2 meters. Yes, we divide the terrain into grid of 2 meters, then we give matricule of all the other points. Then we can now use the instrument now to collect their X, Y, Z, X, Y, H. When we have gotten that, we can now calculate the volume based on the project height. We know that to calculate volume, we just need the area times height is going to give us the volume. The area and the height is going to give us the volume. If we are calculating manually, but since we have height of point that are not they do not have the same height of point, of course we are going to find the average. Let's say we want to get the volume of earthwork here, we're going to find the average height of point multiplied by the surface area. Yes, but in most cases, and that is just the general distance. We are going to see on our last distance, on our last the last part of which is talking about volume. We're going to get into the details how to calculate volumes. the formula manually. We have to understand it manually, even we can use specialized software to do this thing. Okay. Wow. So we have come to the end of the introduction or end of the theoretical concept of terrain modeling and topography terrain modeling. Okay, thank you, and stay put. If you have any question, you can just drop it, and I will give an answer to that. So next part of our work, we'll be talking on the route. So we'll be talking on theoretical concept of route, the mathematical formulas involved, and some other terminology to master. So what is on the road, we will start with the part 3 will be on planimetry. So we are going to deal with the planimetry aspect of road. Then after that, before we go now to the next part, we should be talking about altimetry. This altimetry where we'll be dealing with on the longitudinal and lateral profiles and all the other sections of road and other discussions that are very important for civil engineers to know. Okay, thank you very much. Please, thank you. Just stay put.